Have I got a wild story for you? And I mean, literally wild. I ran into a wild animal on my walk the other day unexpectedly that most people find super scary. However, it's going to lead us into a beautiful conversation on how to do business differently at what I call the speed of nature. And I promise to share my 3 favorite tips of how you can do that for yourself at the end. Let's dive in. So on most days, you will find me on a walk in the woods. And generally I'm doing some pretty deep spiritual work on these walks. This day was no different. I was contemplating a conversation I had had with one of my private clients. She's birthing her body of work into the world, and things weren't going quite the way her head wanted them to. But at the same time, she was realizing that there was actually a lot of flow going on. There were a lot of opportunities coming her way. So I reflected back to her that it almost seemed like if she could drop down and listen to this deeper rhythmic pace, there was a lot of magic that was happening. I found myself calling it the speed of nature. I was musing on this as I was walking along, wondering if that was something I needed to take to a next level. I had the inspiration to ask myself a question. Do I need to surrender to the next level in business? Before I tell you what happened when I asked that question, you need to know that I'm already so surrendered in business. So surrendered it might make your toes curl. I pulled the plug on a successful business 10 years ago in order to figure out how to do business differently that felt more in alignment with my soul. It has been a wild ride, being deeply surrendered to the divine, really only doing things when it feels in alignment. It's been hard trying to figure out that different way to do business. The point is, I'm already very surrendered in business. You know what? There's always a deeper level of surrender. I asked myself the question, do I need to surrender to a next level in business? And guess what happened? Immediately after I asked that question, immediately, all of a sudden, I heard the loudest rattle in the bushes off to the right. There was a giant snake, not something you normally see in Maryland. And I just stood there and I laughed. What an answer to my question. I actually happen to be someone who likes snakes. Snakes have such a beautiful symbolism to them. They represent healing, transformation, death, and rebirth. These are all topics that fit in perfectly with exactly where I am in life, and I'll share more about that in a moment. For me, with snakes, I'm fascinated. There are women out there who dance with snakes. There are ancient stories of temple priestesses who allowed themselves to be bitten by snakes to build up their tolerance to venom so that at some point they could allow themselves to have a full bite of a snake, go on a journey for the tribes, and then come back and offer their wisdom. Just think, there's something so powerful about snakes and also so low to the ground that really fit in with this piece. How does one do life and business at the speed of nature? I found that to be delightfully amusing. So I stood there and I watched the snake. It started to crawl towards me. I wasn't too nervous. I have danced with snakes before in the past, and it is something that I find very powerful. And yet it was still a little bit. It's a little freaky when a big, long snake comes at you. And I just backed up gently, and then it just very sweetly, elegantly crossed the path in front of me and then was gone off into the bushes. I just thought that was such a beautiful moment, and I felt deeply honored and loved the sign from the divine. What are the odds of that level of magic happening in that exact moment? I wanted to share that story with you and then also use it as an opportunity to continue this conversation of how to do business differently. How do we surrender more? How do we drop down to the speed of nature in business? Now, it goes without saying that traditional business is not in tune with nature. It's generally made up by man from the left brain. It's all about the hustle and grind, pushing to make things happen, all the strategies. Let's make sure we produce, no time to rest, all kinds of competition. This is how we're taught to do business. What if there was a different way to do business? And what if there was a way to do business at the speed of nature? What could that look like? Well, let's explore it together. How about instead of pushing to make things happen, instead you let go and you allow and you follow flow? How about instead of constant production and always the bigger, better, faster thing. There's instead learning how to follow cycles and seasons of nature. Nature has a time of production, yes. It also has times of lying fallow, and this contributes to the overall health. How about instead of using our logical, linear left brain to make decisions and control and come up with strategies, instead we learn how to listen to our intuition and our instinct and our bodies. Lastly, how about instead of the hard sell, we learn how to be like the flower, sits back, revels in its beauty, and allows the bees to come to it. So you can see there's all kinds of ways of how to look at doing business differently. Now, I know this path is not for everyone. I get it. Not everyone will be interested in it, but there are some of you out there who have been craving this, like me, deep down in your bones of like a new way of doing business differently. And you are the ones that I am speaking to. I really believe that there are a lot of benefits of doing business at the speed of nature. When you're following ease and flow, business is going to be more sustainable because you're not going against the laws of nature. It's actually a way to get you more reconnected to your own true nature as well. Now let me share with you my 3 favorite tips of how you can follow the speed of nature in your business. Number 1, follow flow. If something isn't working in your business, it's not flowing, it feels stuck, you know what? Stop and let it go. What you can do then is look around and see what is flowing and follow that. You'll be following ease and flow when you do, and guarantee it'll probably open up the place that was stuck in the end anyway. Number 2, allow for your seasons. Now, nature is not in constant production. She produces, she bears fruit, and then she rests. So I'm going to invite you to build that into your business too. You can notice there can be times of concentrated effort of creation and production, but make sure you also factor in some time for rest, for lying fallow, for resourcing so that you can rest and gather up your resources in order to once again start to produce. Notice where you can factor in seasons for yourself. You might factor that in throughout the course of a day, where you have times when you feel like you're in production mode, but then you rest at other times. Or maybe this is over the course of a week, or over the course of a month, or over the course of a quarter. Take some time to notice what your own seasons are. Number 3, don't forget your intuition. Business is often run on this is how you do business, or other people's templates to success, or best practices, and using your logical linear brain to come up with intricate strategies. But don't forget, you have a lot of wisdom and intuition inside you. So I want to remind you, you don't have to always be looking outside for how to do things, that you can check inside you. You might remember in our last video, we talked about how I was exploring more of following my own instinct in marketing. I feel like this is a lesson we can take from nature. Animals follow their own instinct instantly. It guides them well. You too have an inner animal, so I invite you to remember that and use it more in your business. So what do you think? Can you see the inherent benefit of exploring how to do business at the speed of nature for yourself? I feel like this is an important conversation because in order to create a better world, it seems like it's a good idea for all of us to remember and come home to our true nature for ourselves and for our businesses too. In closing, do I feel like I got the answer to my question of if it's time for me to surrender to the next level in my business? I would say yes. I mean, to have a rattlesnake show up in Maryland at that exact moment, I couldn't ask for a more powerful sign from the divine at that point. The rattlesnake is a symbol of death and rebirth, and it's just another invitation into a little d death in my business of more surrenders. It's perfect because here I am trying to birth a program into the world called Death Power, which is an invitation for leaders and entrepreneurs to explore the power of death by going through a death process in community so that it can help us step into more of our deepest power and purpose. And I think it's going to help us understand more about the speed of nature in business as well. Thank you for coming on this journey with me today. Stay tuned as I find my way with all of this, and I'd love to continue the conversation. And what stood out for you from this video? Let's see how it all unfolds from here. All right, everyone, take care.